Discover the incredible lesson a black maid taught his twins that left a millionaire transformed. John Matthews had it all: a sprawling mansion filled with the glimmer of wealth, and a business empire that touched every corner of Atlanta. Yet, among the marble columns and lavish chandeliers stood a silent heartache. His twin daughters, Emma and Lily, drifted through the lavish halls like shadows. Each day, they sought connection, only to find their father lost in conference calls and board meetings. The emptiness grew, a silent echo in the otherwise vibrant home. As summer dawned, Sarah arrived, a dedicated black maid, resilient and full of life. Little did John know that her presence would change everything. To him, she was just another employee, a cog in the machine of his privileged world. However, for Emma and Lily, she was a breath of fresh air. Her laughter rang through the halls like music, stories of her own childhood in a modest neighborhood danced around them. They sat at the kitchen table, wide-eyed, as she recounted tales of love, hardship, and triumph. In Sarah's world, they saw vibrant colors bursting from their mundane black and white lives. "Emma, you want to hear about the time I saved up for my daughter's first bike?" Sarah asked, her eyes bright. The twins leaned in closer, captivated. "I worked 3 jobs. Every penny I earned meant more smiles for her. That's what love looks like." The warmth of those words wrapped around the girls like a comforting blanket. They laughed, they felt hope. For the first time, they realized they weren't just wealthy, they were missing the real magic of life. But as Sarah breathed new life into the Matthews home, John faced a storm. His company was sinking, and panic clawed at his chest. He buried himself in work, neglecting Emma and Lily, who felt the gulf of his absence widening. The glitz of their life began to tarnish. Trapped in his own ambition, John refused to acknowledge those around him, the very community that sustained him before his rise. In his blind pursuit, he fed old prejudices, and a scandal loomed, threatening to unravel everything. The twins, feeling lost, turned to Sarah for solace. They shared their cries, their fears. In return, she offered wisdom wrapped in love, a gentle push toward understanding their privilege. "You girls have power. Use it to uplift those who struggle," she said, with tears glistening in her eyes. Emma and Lily were inspired, a fire ignited in them, an urge to connect, to care, to remember their blessed beginnings. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. John felt the weight of change pressing down on him. He witnessed the twins come alive, but also felt the walls of his carefully constructed empire beginning to crumble. Could he embrace the lessons pouring from Sarah's heart? Could he bridge the gap and reconnect with his daughters just as they started to make sense of their own world? As they gathered around the dinner table one evening, the air crackled with tension. Would John choose to break the cycle of isolation? Or would the pull of his gilded life drag him deeper into the abyss of loneliness? The answer teetered on the brink, leaving the future uncertain. Tension hung in the air as the family settled around the dining table. The clinking of silverware echoed, a sound more like a distant drum than the comforting melody of shared meals. Emma and Lily exchanged hesitant glances, their hearts racing, unsure of what their father's reaction would be. John's brow furrowed as he pushed around the steak on his plate. Deep down, he felt the twins shift, their laughter, their eagerness to help those in need. Yet, flickers of fear danced in his gut. What would happen if he acknowledged that something profound was happening in his home, something that might ask him to step down from his pedestal of power and privilege? "Daddy," Emma's voice cut through the silence, fragile but steady. "We want to do something this summer. We've been talking to Sarah, and we think we should help out in the community." Her words tumbled out, a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. John looked up, caught off guard. "Help out?" he echoed, a hint of disbelief in his voice. The thought of his daughters, cloistered in comfort, stepping into a world of struggle made him recoil. "Yes. We could volunteer at the shelter or organize a food drive, Lily chimed in, her eyes gleaming with hope. Sarah says there are a lot of people who need help, and maybe we could do something, but John, steeped in his own worries about dwindling profits and failing client relationships, silenced them with a wave of his hand. He could feel the walls closing in, the sense of impending chaos creeping ever closer. Girls, I admire that you want to help, but right now we have other more important battles to fight, he said, forcing a smile that fell flat. The girls fell silent, the weight of disappointment palpable. In that moment, hopes for connection crumbled like the fragile atmosphere surrounding them. Emma and Lily sank back in their chairs, their colorful dreams dimmed. Just then, Sarah entered with a tray of warm desserts. The sweet aroma of brownies filled the air, and for a fleeting moment, John found a sliver of comfort. But as he met Sarah's gaze, he felt something shift. She was a part of this family, yet he had treated her like an outsider. Something's cooking in here, Sarah said, her voice light, but there was a gravity in her eyes. She met John's gaze, leveling a look that seemed to peel back layers of denial only he held. What's really bothering you, Mr. Matthews? The name sounded foreign on her tongue, like a reminder of a man he didn't fully recognize anymore. Her candid gaze drew him in. He felt raw, exposed, and it terrified him. How could he open up when all he'd known was to shield himself behind power and wealth? He began, words stumbling over one another. I just don't want to fail. The twins watched, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Would their father finally grasp the lessons he needed to learn? If he embraced the vulnerability, could it heal the rifts around their table? A moment of realization flickered in Sarah's eyes. She could sense it too. The possibility of transformation hung in the air. It's okay to be scared, John. That's part of facing the truth. But you're not alone in this. He held her gaze, wrestling with the fear as the walls trembling around him begged for dismantling. Would he choose connection over isolation? As he inhaled deeply, ready to share his true feelings, a loud crash jolted them from the moment. An ornate vase toppled from the mantel and shattered on the floor, sending fragments scattering across the polished marble. At that moment, reality held its breath. Would this accident be another barrier or a breaking point? John looked at his daughters, then to Sarah, caught between the remnants of his shattered life and the hope of something new. What would he decide next? The air brimmed with anticipation, leaving everyone on edge, wondering what came next. John stood frozen, his heart pounding like a drum echoing in the silence that followed the crash. The broken vase lay in a disarray of shards, glimmering like lost opportunities scattered on the floor. A thick tension pressed against his chest, rendering him speechless. His daughters seemed to shrink back, their faces painted with disbelief, while Sarah stood still, her eyes wide with concern. Dad? Emma finally broke the silence, her small voice trembling. Are you okay? He forced himself to breathe, inhaling the rich scent of brownies that wafted through the air, trying to ground himself in something sweet and familiar. But the taste of despair lingered on his tongue. I'm fine, he whispered, though he could feel the tight knot of anxiety coiling around his heart. Let's clean it up, Lily offered, her voice soft yet firm, rising from her seat. With an urgency to reclaim the moment, she darted into action, reaching for a broom. No. John found himself calling out, the word bursting from him before he could stop it. The fierceness of that one syllable startled everyone. Let's just leave it for a moment. He glanced at Sarah again, feeling the weight of her gaze. She had seen him more clearly than his own daughters ever could. He was slipping, losing grip on everything he had built. The panic of admitting that felt heavier than the vase he had just shattered. Why don't we sit? Sarah suggested gently, her voice unfurling around them like a reassuring blanket. They all settled back down, the table now a battlefield of emotions. The brownie tray was forgotten as they sat amid the chaos. The air was thick, saturated with vulnerability. For days, John had skirted around his fear. It loomed over him like a dark shadow, whispering inadequacies, whispering failure. I realize I'm not facing this alone, he said finally, his voice steadier now. I've been so absorbed in my own fears that I barely see you girls, or what you want to do with your lives." The twins exchanged glances, cautious hope flickering like candlelight between them. "We want to help," Emma echoed earnestly. "We want to make a difference." John swallowed hard, their sincerity piercing through his dismay. "But what if I fail you? What if you don't want to help after you see how hard it is?" It was an admission, a release, a moment of raw honesty that revealed just how much he had strayed from his family. "Isn't that part of trying?" Sarah interjected softly, encouragingly. "Everything worth doing comes with risks." John could feel the tide in the room shifting. It was still terrifying, this plunge into vulnerability, but Sarah's words held weight. A thought took root within him: what if opening up could lead to something bigger than himself? What if leaning into fear gave way to strength? I want to learn," he said, allowing the softness of his voice to bring meaning, to convey sincerity. "I want to learn what really matters to us, to this family." There was a moment of silence, then Lily spoke softly. "We want you to join us. We can do this together, Dad." John's heart swelled, a reaction he hadn't felt in ages. Longing, hope, and love surged through him. It was the kind of realization that opened doors. If he could dive into the possibilities of connection, maybe he could rediscover himself too. But just as he dared to lift his gaze, a shadow passed outside the window. Dark clouds rolled in. Thunder grumbled ominously, a sign of the storm to come. The air crackled with electricity, mirroring John's awakening heart. "Looks like rain," Sarah said, her tone light. "But maybe it's time to embrace the chaos?" John smiled, feeling the walls of his rigid world begin to tremble. Yet, deep down, a question echoed louder than the thunder: what if in seeking to help others, he lost sight of himself again? As the first raindrop tapped against the window, the family sat together, united in a fragile understanding. Would they weather the storm outside, and the storms within? A journey lay ahead, filled with unknowns, challenges, and transformations waiting to unfold. The wind howled outside, rattling the window panes and creating a symphony that matched the turbulent emotions in the room. The first few raindrops tapped out a rhythm, setting the stage for the unfolding scene. John felt the tension shift, the air filled with an unexpected anticipation. "Why don't we talk about what we want to do?" Lily suggested, looking between her father and sister, her eyes sparkling with ideas. "We can start small, like helping at the community center. They need all kinds of help with programs for kids. Or we could organize a bake sale." Emma chimed in, enthusiasm lighting her face. "We can make those brownies, and people will love them. We could donate the money to local charities." John felt a warmth swell in his chest as he listened to his daughter's dream out loud. These small ideas seemed to share a spark of something larger, something he had lost sight of: community, purpose, connection. "Those are both great ideas," Sarah interjected. "And I'm sure there are plenty of other ways to give back. This is just the beginning." A hint of fear snaked its way back into John's mind. What if he couldn't keep up? What if his daughters were inspired by something he couldn't fulfill? But the sincere determination in their eyes pushed the doubts aside. This was about more than just him, it was about them. "Okay then, let us do it," he declared, the resolve pushing through the uncertainty. "I'm all in." With those words, an invisible bond tightened among them. A collective sigh seemed to exhale through their shoulders, and for the first time, John felt the burden of his isolation begin to lift. As the storm outside escalated, they started brainstorming. Ideas flew around the room as fast as the rain now coursing down the windows. They envisioned weekend volunteer opportunities, after-school programs, and even community cleanup events. Laughter punctuated their discussions when one of them would pitch a wild idea, like turning a corner of the neighborhood park into a vegetable garden. "This is going to be amazing," Emma exclaimed as they plotted their plans on paper, scribbling down every idea, large and small. Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder caught them off guard, making them jump in their seats. For a brief moment, John's heart raced, panic rising in his throat. But he looked around. Sarah's reassuring smile, his daughters' bright faces, and the collaboration in the air pushed the fear away. "It's just the storm," he whispered, giving himself permission to feel safe amidst the chaos. As they continued mapping out their plans, John's thoughts drifted. It struck him that this was a teaching moment, a hands-on lesson for his girls, but it also felt like he was the one learning. Would the challenges they'd face help him rediscover himself, the dad and husband he wanted to be? At that moment, the doorbell rang, loud and insistent, breaking through their focused din. A frown crossed John's brow as he exchanged glances with Sarah and the twins. Who could possibly be at the door in a storm like this? He stood slowly, the floor creaking under his weight as he approached the door. The air felt heavy with anticipation, and he could feel his heartbeat quicken with curiosity. Who could disrupt this moment of hope and growth they'd just begun to carve out for themselves? What if it's someone who needs help? Emma asked with a worried glance at her dad. John paused, hand hovering over the doorknob. "Then we'll figure it out together," he replied, his heart racing not with fear but with anticipation. He took a deep breath and opened the door, ready to embrace whatever awaited them beyond the threshold. John opened the door, revealing a figure silhouetted against the pouring rain. It was a woman, soaked to the bone, her umbrella turned inside out by the fierce wind. She stood there, shivering slightly, her eyes carrying an expression of both relief and uncertainty. Hi," she said, her voice trembling but warm. "I'm sorry to intrude. My car broke down a few blocks away, and I was hoping to find someone who could help me." John instinctively stepped back, beckoning her in. "Of course. Come in, you must be freezing." He noticed her worn shoes and frayed coat and felt a pang of empathy. He focused on her, pushing the remnants of doubt from his mind. This was a moment where they could embody the spirit of community they just discussed. As she entered, John glanced back at his family. Emma and Lily watched wide-eyed, their previous excitement now mingled with curiosity about this unexpected guest. Sarah, ever the gracious hostess, moved quickly to grab a towel and offer it to the woman. Thank you so much," the woman said, wringing out her hair, a smile breaking through her cold exterior. "My name is Clara." "Nice to meet you, Clara," Sarah chirped. "Why don't you sit down? We were just planning some community projects of our own." Clara raised her eyebrows in surprise and lowered herself onto the edge of the couch. "Community projects? Like what?" Emma jumped in. "We're going to help out at the community center. And maybe even do a bake sale." Her excitement poured out like the rain outside. Clara's expression brightened. "Those sound amazing. You know, for years, I worked with kids in my neighborhood. Helping them find joy and hope actually saved me, too." John felt a stirring in his heart. As their conversation flowed, Clara shared her experiences working in the community, how she taught children not only academics but life skills. Each story she told painted vivid images in John's mind. He could see how not just the kids, but she herself had transformed through those connections. "That's incredible," Lily said, her interest piqued. "Yeah," Emma added. "I'd love to hear more." For the next few minutes, Clara spoke, her stories weaving a rich tapestry of struggles and victories, laughter and sorrow. She eloquently illustrated how each action they took, big or small, could impact lives profoundly. The warmth in the room grew, kindling a shared spirit of purpose. John watched his daughters lean closer, their faces alight with inspiration. "What kept you going?" John finally asked, the words barely slipping out. Clara paused, looking down at her hands before meeting John's eyes. "Love," she declared. "Love for my community, for the kids, and the understanding that every little act of kindness adds up. It might seem small at first, but it creates ripples." John nodded, taking this in like a breath of fresh air. The fear and trepidation holding him back began to crumble in the face of Clara's resolve and passion. He glanced at Sarah, who was already scribbling notes on a notepad. His daughter's eager smiles fueled a newfound determination within him. Suddenly, thunder rumbled again, this time accompanied by a flash of lightning that lit up the room. The moment felt electric, charged with possibilities and hope. This could be the start of something amazing, John thought, but before he could voice this new idea, Clara stood, suddenly serious. I know it's a storm outside, but I have to leave soon. I wouldn't want to impose what? No. Emma exclaimed. You should stay with us. It's dangerous out there. Yeah, Lily added. We want to help you, just like you helped us. John looked at Clara, whose face softened in a mix of surprise and gratitude. She started. I would love to. But I don't want to be a burden. No burdens here, John insisted, the warmth in him blooming like the first flowers of spring. We're just getting started. And as they settled back into the warmth of their home, thunder clapped outside, punctuating the moment. Little did they know how this encounter would change the very course of their plans and push them to become even more than they'd dreamed. As conversations resumed, John felt a spark igniting not just for community service, but for growth, everything intertwining. What they didn't foresee was how Clara would become an integral part of their next steps, her wisdom pushing them toward unforeseen challenges and deeper transformations. He could not shake the feeling that the real adventure had just begun. Would they be ready for everything this journey would demand from them? Clara's presence turned the evening into something extraordinary. The rain continued to lash against the windows, but inside, laughter and conversation filled the room. John felt lighter as he watched Clara engage with his daughters. They huddled around her, hanging on every word as she animatedly shared stories from her past. You taught them life skills? Lily asked, her eyes wide. Yes. Things like cooking, budgeting, and how to communicate confidently, Clara explained, her smile brightening. I wanted them to know they could create their own futures. Emma chimed in, can you teach us? We want to help, too. Of course, Clara replied, her expression sincere. But remember, it's not just about teaching. It's about listening and understanding what they need. John watched the connection grow, a bond weaving between his daughters and their unexpected guest. He felt something shift within himself, a sense of hope and purpose building in the corners of his heart. As Clara continued to share her journey, she spoke about the challenges she faced while working in tough neighborhoods. There were times I felt like giving up, she admitted, her voice lowering. But I found strength in the kids. They believed in me, and I couldn't let them down. Wow, that's so brave, Emma said softly. Yeah, Lily added, I can't believe you were scared. It's okay to feel scared sometimes, Clara assured them. What matters is what we do despite our fears. John felt a lump in his throat. Clara was teaching not just his children, but him as well. He thought about all the moments he had hesitated when doubts whispered that he shouldn't step out of his comfort zone, shouldn't push for greater change. Do you think we can really make a difference? John asked, his voice steady despite the raw emotion behind it. Clara locked eyes with him. Absolutely. Your willingness to help is already making an impact. It's the first step on the journey. The room fell silent for a moment, everyone absorbing the weight of her words. Outside, the rain softened, hinting that the storm might soon pass. John smiled at Clara, understanding that this wasn't just a fleeting interaction, it felt like fate. Let us go for it, he said suddenly, the thought erupting from him. Let us really do this. Tomorrow, we can start planning for the community center. We can gather supplies for the bake sale and brainstorm how we'll reach the kids. Clara's face radiated joy, just as his daughters bounced with excitement. Yes. I love it. As they exchanged ideas, a plan began to form. John proposed they spend the weekend cleaning up the community center alongside Clara because not only would it benefit them, but it would help build connections with the people they aimed to serve. A sense of clarity settled over John. He realized this venture was even more than community service, it was about redefining their family's values, creating ripples that echoed outward. The thunder that had loomed hours ago now seemed like a distant memory, replaced by purpose and light. Before we dive in, how about dinner? Sarah suggested, snapping everyone out of their excited chatter. Let me whip something up while we brainstorm. Clara laughed, a soft sound that filled the room with warmth. I can pitch in. You? You already did so much today. John chuckled. But I love cooking. Clara insisted, and they all joined in laughter, easing any remnants of awkwardness. As they began to prepare a simple meal together, each chopping vegetable, stirring pots, and sharing snippets of their lives, an unexpected bond formed, one built on shared hopes and dreams. However, just as they settled at the table, Clara's expression shifted. A shadow passed over her face, and a storm cloud seemed to form in her eyes. Everyone noticed, jolted by the sudden shift. "What's wrong?" John asked gently. She hesitated, the weight of unspoken truths hanging in the air. "There's something important we need to discuss, something about my past that might affect all of us." John's heart sank. What could this mean? Would it alter their plans? Would it change everything? Clara's voice trembled as she prepared to reveal her truth, and a silence stretched across the table, thick with anticipation. What would she say? Clara took a deep breath, steadying herself against the wave of anxiety that washed over her. The room, now thick with silence, seemed to lean in, ready to hear what could change everything. John felt his heart pound in his chest, each beat echoing the uncertainty that gripped him. "Thank you for being so open," Clara began. Her eyes shifted from the curious faces of Lily and Emma to John. "I want you all to know that the work I do, it's not just in neighborhoods that need help. It's personal. I've faced my own challenges. And some of those involve choices I made when I was younger, choices that I regret." John immediately felt protective, not just of Clara but of the fragile connection they'd just begun to build. "You don't have to share if it impacts you too much," he said softly, wanting to reassure her, but Clara shook her head. "No, I need you to understand. It's why I do what I do now. I used to work for a wealthy family, and while I was there, I found myself in a toxic situation. I let my fears control me, thinking I couldn't do better, thinking I had to accept the status quo." Lily and Emma exchanged glances, confused but attentive. John squeezed Clara's hand, a silent gesture of support. "I was not just a maid," Clara continued, her voice firm despite the tremor in her tone. "I was a role model for their children. I taught them kindness, respect, and resilience. But I was also trapped by my circumstances, unable to break free from the cycle of dependency. One day, I found the courage to leave, even when it felt impossible." Her honesty pierced through the air, leaving an open wound that needed healing. John saw admiration in his daughter's eyes, but he also recognized fear that Clara's past might echo in their lives. He could see how Clara's admission was not meant to garner sympathy but rather to share an invaluable lesson. Leaving wasn't easy. There were days I regretted it, but ultimately, it led me here. To this moment, Clara said, her smile returning, but it was tempered with the weight of her story. "I want to help all of you understand that our pasts do not define our futures. It's what we do next that matters." The room buzzed with a mix of emotions. John felt a swell of pride for Clara, for her strength. "Your story is powerful," he said, his voice filled with awe. "I've struggled with making big decisions too. Thank you for sharing that." Lily's hand shot up at the table. "Does that mean we can always choose to be better?" "Absolutely," Clara replied, her spirit reigniting. "Every day is a new chance, and it starts with believing in yourself." Emma sat up straighter, her earlier eagerness rekindled. "And we can help others believe too, right?" "Exactly," said Clara, her eyes sparkling now, catching the renewed energy in the room. "That's why we're here, to see change and to make it." Just as the warmth of her words enveloped them, John noticed Clara flinch slightly, a shadow passing fleetingly across her face. "But what if some people don't want to change?" she whispered. They fell quiet again, contemplating that reality, a truth that lived in many hearts, perhaps even in their own community. How would they tackle it? Before he could respond, Sarah returned from the kitchen, a steaming pot in her hands. The moment snapped. "Who's hungry?" she asked, breaking the heavy atmosphere. Everyone laughed, each of them grateful for the distraction. But as they served dinner, John couldn't shake Clara's words. After dessert, as they cleared the table, Clara stepped closer to John, her expression serious again. I want to honor your willingness to help. But just know, some paths will challenge us more than we expect. I can guide you, but it won't always be easy. John nodded. A chill ran down his spine. What awaited them? What kinds of challenges lay ahead in this venture? As John looked into Clara's eyes, he realized he was ready to face them, ready to pursue this mission no matter how hard it became. But just as he opened his mouth to agree, a loud crash echoed from the nearby street, a shattering of glass, followed by a distant shout. The stillness returned, filled with a new tension. What was that? Lily's voice trembled, eyes wide. Let us check it out, John said, leading the way. What kind of trouble lingered outside their home? Suddenly, this evening of connection felt volatile, as if the world outside was ready to intrude. What chaos awaited them beyond the door? As John reached the door, an unsettling mix of worry and curiosity churned in his gut. He pulled it open, the hinges creaking as if protesting the impending reality outside. The dim light from their home spilled into the darkened street, illuminating the chaos unfolding just a few houses down. A group of teenagers was gathered near a broken storefront, laughter mingling with shouts. One of them kicked a trash can, the metallic clang sending a jolt through John's system. He caught a glimpse of shattered glass glistening in the faint streetlights, fragments strewn like lost dreams. Stay close, girls, he called back, his protective instincts kicking in. Lily and Emma clung to Clara, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement, while John felt Clara's steady presence beside him. What were they doing? Emma whispered, her voice barely above a gasp. Just some reckless kids, I guess, but it's not right, John muttered, trying to keep a calm facade in front of his daughters. Lily peered past him, curiosity racing against her trepidation. Are they trying to cause trouble? Like what you said about people not wanting to change? Yes, exactly, John replied, heart heavy. Sometimes, it's hard for people to see what hurts them, and they act out. Clara stepped forward, determination lighting her features. We should say something. They need to hear that this isn't the way forward. Are you sure? John hesitated. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down, the urge to protect not only his girls but these kids too. It was a fine line to walk. Yes, Clara said, her voice firm yet gentle, a beacon of reassurance. Sometimes, it takes someone reaching out to change a path. She stepped onto the sidewalk as John stood frozen for just a second longer, panic wrestling with admiration. He quickly followed, finding the courage to back her up. The scene was chaotic, yet Clara's presence exuded calm like a lighthouse in a storm. Hey! Clara's voice rang out, catching even the most rambunctious of the group's attention. Can we talk? The laughter faded, replaced by whispers and sidelong glances. Clara stood tall, drawing in the curious eyes of the teenagers, who exchanged uncertain looks. What do you want? One boy sneered, swaggering towards her. A thin veil of bravado cloaked his fear. The world outside is more than these moments. Your choices today shape who you'll be tomorrow, Clara replied, her voice unwavering. Simon, who are you to lecture us? He shot back, but John noted the flicker of uncertainty behind his bravado. I'm someone who has walked a hard road, Clara said, her tone even softer, piercing through the bravado. And I want you to know that you have options. You can be the ones who inspire others, not the ones who hurt. The tension hung thick. John held his breath, the air charged with potential transformation. Suddenly, there was a shift. One of the girls stepped forward, emotion etching itself on her face. She's right, we've been acting stupid. We want something better but never really think about how to get there. Clara's eyes lit up at this, and she leaned in closer, careful to bridge the gap. Then let us make a change together. Every small choice you make can be part of something bigger, something good. Just as hope began to weave through the night, a distant siren blared, jolting them all back to reality. The group shifted, the moment of connection teetering on the edge of disruption as fear resurfaced. What are we going to do? John whispered to Clara, concern deepening in his brow. She looked at him, determination rekindling in her gaze. We can either walk away or stand our ground. It's time to show them that change starts with just one brave act, one conversation at a time. But as they stood there, uncertainty looming in the air, a crowd began to gather. The teens were hesitant, and John felt the urgency ripple through their small group. What would happen next? Would they be able to reach these kids, or was this moment destined to fizzle out amidst the chaos? In the silence, amidst the distant sirens, John realized they stood at a crossroads. The question hung heavily: could they spark real change here tonight, or would the moment slip away like so many others had before? The air grew thick, tension wrapping around John as he struggled to decipher the shifting energy. He could feel the eyes of the gathered crowd, curious, skeptical, some even hopeful, pinned on Clara and the teens. In that moment, standing at the precipice of uncertainty, he realized they all craved connection, even if it sometimes masked itself as indifference or defiance. Who else here feels lost? Clara continued, her voice steady and inviting, cutting through the murmur of doubt. You're not alone. We've all been there. John observed as Clara reached out with her words, and he let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He noticed the boy's bravado faltering, his posture softening. It was just a flicker, but it was enough to ignite hope in John's heart. A girl with bright pink hair stepped forward next, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. All the time. It's like everyone expects us to act out, to fit this mold. But I don't want that. We want more. What if you could have more? Clara replied, her tone gentle, yet firm. It starts here, it starts now. Together, we can help each other. What if we used our voices for something greater? Another boy nudged forward, shifting uncomfortably. Like what? We don't even know where to start. You start with this conversation, Clara said, her hand gesturing around them. With each other. You've all got talents, ideas. Why not use them to create something good instead of tearing things down? The laughter of a moment ago felt like a distant memory as a wave of thoughtfulness washed over the teenagers. The gravity of the silliness they had indulged in sunk in, and with it, a sense of accountability began to take root. I'm tired of feeling lost, a tall boy with messy hair finally admitted, the courage in his voice resonating like a drumbeat in the still air. I want to be a part of something that matters. That's the spirit. Clara encouraged, a warm smile blooming on her face. What do you think you can create? Look around. Yes, this place is a mess. But what if we set a goal? Clean this up, maybe make it a gathering place, something beautiful. We can be proud of it. John felt the shift around them, a transformation brewing. This wasn't just a speech, it was the beginnings of hope woven into the fabric of a community. It felt as though everyone was leaning in, the seriousness of their reality merging with possibility, yet, just as clarity emerged, the sound of a loud clatter erupted from across the street. Glass shattered again, but this time it wasn't just an accident. The crowd turned as figures loomed, adults gesturing angrily, eyes probing for signs of trouble. What is going on? John muttered, but Clara was already stepping into the fray, her determination renewed. We need to stand together. She shouted, her voice ringing out like a clarion call. Lily and Emma watched in wide-eyed devotion, their admiration for their mother palpable. As tensions escalated, something in Clara's face told John this was just the beginning. Behind him, he could feel his daughters inching closer, their faith in Clara palpable. The teenagers, uncertain and on the edge, looked between Clara and the group preparing to confront them. Would they step up for the change Clara envisioned? In that moment, John realized the night wasn't just about standing for change, but also about choosing hope even at a time when darkness loomed. Their little talk might lead to something monumental. They had taken the first step. But now, they stood amidst rising chaos. Would they fall into fear, or would they rise together, unleashing a wave of transformation? John clenched his fists, determination igniting within him. Could this fragile moment lead them to a future they all longed for? Under the stormy sky, the air was thick with tension and the scent of rain. John stood next to Clara, his heart racing as he observed the disarray around them. The laughter of recklessness faded into whispers of doubt, replaced by something profound, an opportunity to connect, to make a real difference. "Listen, everyone," Clara called, her voice clear above the murmur of the anxious crowd. "We each carry a light within us. What if we let that light guide us towards something better? Together, we can turn this chaos into community." The teenagers shifted, glances exchanged, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. Would they choose to walk a new path? John inhaled deeply, stepping forward. "Clara's right. Change isn't easy, but standing together is always a start. We can't let fear shape who we are. Let us find what we love and share that with each other." His voice trembled but resonated, grounding everyone in the moment. Emma and Lily, still hovering close, squeezed each other's hands, their faces alight with hope. "We want to help," Emma declared, her voice ringing out like a bell of possibilities. "Yes," Lily chimed in, her enthusiasm bubbling over. "Let's South clean this place up and turn it into something amazing." Suddenly, a flicker of recognition flared in the eyes of one teen, a tall boy with a tangle of curls. "Yeah, I'd be down for that. My uncle runs a community center. We could host events, parties, and bring everyone together." "Wow." Clara smiled brightly, the encouragement radiating from her. The energy shifted in the crowd, acceptance blossoming. As voices rose in agreement, John felt a surge of inspiration fueled by connections that formed in that chaotic moment. These kids, once adrift in reckless laughter, were now leaning into the power of their collective voice. "Let us get started," John urged, his heart swelling with pride. "We can't waste this moment. Who wants to grab brooms and bags right now?" Cheerful chatter erupted, and hands shot up. It was like a wave crashing over them, the youth hungry for change, eager to build a better path. Clara led the way, rallying the teenagers as she handed out garbage bags and organizing those eager to clean up. Meanwhile, as John joined hands with his daughters, he felt their bond strengthen in the excitement unfolding around them. The once hidden connection to community blossomed fully in the storm's chaos. As they worked, laughter erupted, conversations flowed, and with each action, John watched the miracle of transformation unfold. Emma and Lily led kids in spirited discussions, the sound of their camaraderie filling the air with promise. The dull thud of isolation began to fade, replaced with united purpose. The rain lightened, mirroring the change enveloping the throng. John felt a lightness in his chest, realizing he was not just aiding these kids, he was reshaping their own family's legacy. Together, they were forging a path towards something meaningful, anchored in love and connection, not isolation. A few hours later, with the street gleaming clean and the trash piled high, the group settled to catch their breath, faces downturned but joy bubbling unchecked. John scanned the audience, now lit with pride and sweat. The tensions of the night had given way to something vibrant and hopeful. Clara, standing nearby, caught John's eye, a shared smile passing between them. "You see what happens?" she said softly, her voice warm and reassuring. "We did this, together." He nodded, overwhelmed with gratitude for the blossoming relationships, the ones that not only reached out to the teens but wrapped around Emma, Lily, and even Sarah, his steady anchor throughout it all. "Yeah, we really did," he affirmed, emotion creeping into his voice. The once loud storm had transformed into a gentle patter, washing everything clean, promising renewal. Hope flickered brightly in their hearts. An unexpected cheer erupted from the teenagers, breaking the reflective silence, filling the air with a new promise. One boy, grinning ear to ear, shouted, "Who's ready to meet next week to figure out more projects?" Echoes of agreement filled the space, and John's heart swelled. His daughters hopped up, eyes bright as stars, their laughter joining the chorus of emerging change. As day broke and painted the sky with colors of possibility, John grasped Clara's hand, shaking details of future projects into existence alongside the beaming faces of his daughters. The goal shifted from merely surviving to vehemently thriving together. Wrapped in warmth, John finally realized the magic of life wasn't hidden within wealth. It was in connection, in love, in uplifted spirits. Laughter rang out, echoing through the streets, and just like that, the Matthews home was forever transformed. Would they face challenges? Certainly. But this time, armed with understanding, connection, and a community bound by hope, they knew they could weather any storm. As the sun broke free from the clouds, Jack felt lighter. This was the beginning of a beautiful legacy, a family united by purpose, driven by love, and dedicated to bringing change. Now, as they faced their new adventure in the bright light of day, he knew their journey had just begun. But what about you? Are you ready to make a difference in your own life and in your community? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm so we can continue to share these moments with everyone. Comment below on your favorite part of this transformation. Share your feelings with us, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and witness the power of love and connection. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans know the importance of standing together.